Hey, what is up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, I will be breaking down how I use the VWAP to better execute on my trades. Now, I do use the VWAP strategy in combination with a lot of other confluences, including my supply and demand zones and my pivot points, but I want to make this as simple as possible. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First and foremost, of course, my disclaimer, feel free to pause the video, read through this, but essentially I'm just saying I'm not a professional financial advisor, trader, or teacher. I'm just a retail trader documenting my journey, and because a lot of you have asked me what's my current strategy I'm using, I wanted to transparently show you that. Now, of course, this strategy, as well as every other thing that I share, may not work for you, and it will not guarantee you any positive results each time. But again, I just want to share with you what's going on, and hopefully you're able to find the strategy that works best for you and your trading personality. So what is the VWAP? The VWAP is the volume weighted average price. It is the average price of a symbol throughout the trading session. The VWAP price will change on different time frames. So for example, the 3-minute time frame VWAP price will definitely be different than the daily or even the 1-hour time frame. And one thing I've noticed throughout my experience with the VWAP is that price action loves to retreat to it. So let's say that we were super bullish on the day and the price action is obviously going up, whereas the VWAP is below all of the price action. Eventually, at some point, the price action will, come down to it to retest it in some way. And then vice versa, if we're super bearish on the day and the VWAP is above the price action, then eventually we will retrace to go back up to retest it in some way. Now, there's 3 possible scenarios that can happen when we retest the VWAP. The first one is we will come very, very close to it by a couple of points maybe. The second scenario is that we will actually touch or even break through it, but then eventually reject and close beneath or close above it in the original direction we were at. And the third final scenario is that we will break all the way through VWAP, we will retest the indicator, and then we will continue in the direction it was moving. So for the VWAP, you're able to add it on your TradingView or TradingView platform. In my case, my TradingView settings are on the side. My anchor period is session. My source is HLC3, and my style is going to be a very bright teal line. For TradingView, I have 2 different styles. The first one is just the very basic VWAP setting, no changes to it on the minute and the hour time frame. But then on the 22 range chart, I have my VWAP with the standard deviation bands, and I have it set up based upon Trades by Matt's video. He made a chart setup video for the 22 range chart, so feel free to check out his channel for that. Now for all of the screenshots, they are going to be for the NASDAQ because that's the only symbol I trade. So that's the NQ1 exclamation point on the TradingView platform. But for this very first example, I just wanted to show you a visual representation that the VWAP, if you're using it as a means for just support and resistance, it's not always trustworthy, right? As you can tell, we had broken through the VWAP once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in one trading session. So, there's definitely times where we can use the VWAP as a support or resistance indicator, which I will be showing you. That's how I like to use it. Other people just like to use the VWAP as a sense of, okay, we're going to retrace back to this line. And that's what I had mentioned to you guys in the very beginning of this video, not too long ago. But that's why I find it for my strategy that just having multiple confluences and even other strategies to combine all together will help a lot with making better decisions on your executions for trades. Now this example, it's the 5-minute chart. I wanted to show that you can use the VWAP as a supportive indicator, as what I do. So of course, I want to have a reason to believe that not only one, we're going to be using the VWAP as a support to bounce to the upside, but also if we are coming from a short bias and using that as the supportive bounce to go up again. So the first time around, to show that we might have a long bias, start of the day, we have 20 minutes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 long 5-minute wicks. So that's 20 minutes in total that we are being supported off the VWAP. So that in itself gives me some indication that, okay, I'm able to believe in the VWAP right now to push off of it at some point. I'm also using Bookmap, of course, to see liquidity to the upside. I'm also watching my EMAs. So we do have this nice long wick off the 21 EMA. We have this mini little bull flag. We have an inside bar. We have new higher highs each time. So it's a lot of reasons for a possible push to the upside, right? Great. Let's say we had that long trade. Maybe we have a pivot point up here for an exit, because that's definitely what I would do. Or even seeing on the book map to see how many big orders on the top side that might reject or push us down. And then we also have this indication of a double top for the 2 5-minute candles. So one here, one here. So maybe that could be a sense of, all right, maybe it's time to exit this long trade. We're also really extended off the VWAP. We're really extended off the 21. Everything else I've mentioned as well. So now maybe let's say we're taking a short, or even this is the first time you're coming into the market. And for me, looking for a short bias, if you have all the right confluences, where is my exit going to be? And just I mentioned in the beginning, the VWAP is acting like a supportive indicator. We do, in hindsight, we break all the way to the downside, and we have 2 bounces off of the VWAP. The first time, the second time, and with the second time, we have a bullish engulfing candle looking for that squeeze back to previous highs. Oops, I apologize about that. But yeah, so that's how I would use the VWAP as a supportive indicator, just as a means to be able to push off of. And then if you're taking a short bias, this could be a means for your exit. Now moving on to the next example, this is the 50-minute chart, and it's to show the VWAP as a resistance indicator, that we're not obviously able to break above it, we're just going to continue pushing to the downside. So every time we do have a pullback, that could be a means for an entry to continue for a further short. So just to break down what is happening on the chart right now for you guys, to do a little bit of storytelling. Here we are going from the overnight sesh, the pre-market sesh, going into the morning. We have an obvious wall of resistance on the top side. Overnight high right here was not able to be broken, although we attempted to. So now at this point, if we're not able to break this wall of resistance, looking for that break of the overnight low, which is exactly what happened here. And as we broke that, we did also fall short of all of the EMAs. We had a really nice extension off of the 9 EMA. So then when we pulled all the way down here, we're obviously going to retrace back to go ahead and touch it. And then this is the part that's really interesting for me, because with my strategy, again, with the VWAP, I want to see that retracement, right? I want any of those 3 things that I talked about in the beginning to happen. And in this case, looking in hindsight, you'll see that we did retrace to the VWAP. And it was the second thing that happened, the second scenario, that we tapped or we broke through, but yet we rejected and we continued in our original direction. And in this case, it was to the downside. So we're using the VWAP as a resistance indicator to push for new lower lows. But let's say, you were in a short bias. Let's say you wanted to see that push to VWAP so you can take a long, and then that was it, right? Well, maybe for me, I would be looking for support. This first time right here is an easy means to get faked out. I definitely have been faked out so many times. But you also have to consider the time of day you're trading, the volume as well, and obviously the session you're trading. So this is the New York session. I want to say this was open. This is around the slower time of the day, which is, I believe, like 9-ish, 10-ish. Let's just say between like 8:30 to 10:30. This is when this is happening. I'm not going to be able to give you exact time frames because I'm not actually quite sure. But again, for the sake of the video, because certain times of the day, the volume isn't as crazy, that is what's happening here, right? We just don't have enough push momentum to get up there. Maybe there's other reasons too. But that's one of the things I look at when I'm trading, is the volume and the time of day. But right here, this is more of power hour for me. So with power hour, I know for sure we have a lot of, we have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of volume. People are coming back from eating their lunch on the East Coast side. It just makes more sense, right? So because of that, we have all the support being built. We have a breakthrough of that support, grabbing those stop losses. Some of those orders, liquidity sweep to push to the upside with this bullish engulfing, and there we are pushing it into the VWAP, and that could be a quick scalp to the long side for you if you wanted to take that position instead. Now my final example to best explain like the bread and butter of my strategy that I look for, or I see time and time again, is right here. If you actually just look at the pictures itself, you can see a lot of similarities, and that's what I really like about this trade. I'm just more comfortable now with seeing it and recognizing it a lot quicker than before. And I think that has definitely helped a lot with my confidence in this strategy. So for this, the first screenshot is gonna be from a while back. I can't give you the exact date either because I kind of just screenshotted it and went along the rest of this presentation. But this second screenshot is gonna be from September 6th, 2023. So very, very recent. And yeah, let's go ahead and break through the similarities and how I take these trades. So it is the 15-minute time frame. But for the first example, I'm just going to read you what I see. right? Storytelling here. So the first one, we have the obvious resistance to the upside on both circles, showing that there's a wall that we are not able to break over. In fact, creating newer lower lows each time. We also are falling beneath the VWAP as well as the 21. And then eventually we break below the 9. For the second screenshot, same idea. We have a resistance to the upside. We are kind of hovering between all of the indicators, but using the indicator of the pivot points, as I've talked about in my supply and demand zone video, you can see we had that resistance to push it. We couldn't even break over it. We had a nice tap, and that was it. So now we are finally pushing beneath all of the indicators. Back to the first screenshot, the next thing I noticed is this long extension off of the VWAP, and we also have this bear flag playing out at the bottom of the chart. Same thing for the second screenshot, long extension off of VWAP, then the bear flag is playing off of the chart. The next thing I'm noticing is a rounding pattern on the bottom, or some type of way to see that we are starting to get some support, maybe a nice little push to the upside. And again, incorporating my book map, because I look at that for order flow and seeing what kind of levels are, sitting with lots of orders. In this case, after we break the bear flag and then we create these new lower lows, we have a rounding pattern. We do have also this bullish engulfing candle. And then eventually we are holding above the 9 EMA. Although, it seems sketch with all these long wicks moving to the upside. Either way, it's still pushing until we get to VWAP. And then on the right side with the second screenshot, when we do have that bear flag, we break it, right? We have new lower lows, using the pivot point as a means to go ahead and touch or break for an exit of the trade, or even maybe an entry for going to the long side. Here we are having that little rounding, finding some support, have a very strong bullish candle moving upward. We have a little inside bar pushing off of the pivot point. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, eventually 5 long wicks of the 15-minute candles pushing off the pivot point, giving me an indicator that, okay, maybe we are going to still continue to the upside, at least getting to my VWAP, so those one of 3 things can happen. That's exactly what happens here. So that's all of the things that I look for this very common trade that I take. It's ultimately always waiting for that push back to VWAP at some point. It's when you have a buildup of all these different confluences, a buildup of, the orders to the upside or maybe to the downside in the sake of this support video, where we're going to have that test of VWAP. So that's all the examples I wanted to cover. I hope that this video was easy to follow as far as how I use the VWAP to my, my strategy and how I use it to execute on my trades. If you guys have any questions about it, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. I do know a lot of different traders use this kind of strategy, so it's very common. I'm definitely not the first person to have created it. It's just a means of building up all the checklists and tick boxes that match up to what you look for, and essentially taking it to either, to summarize the video, to either 1, we push back to VWAP for a really close, few points. 2, we are going to tap or break through it before we get rejected. And then for the third, final thing that can happen when we get to VWAP is we get a full breakthrough, we get a retest of the VWAP indicator, and then we continue to the direction we are already moving. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for your time and support. I really, really hope this video was helpful in some way. Feel free to drop a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I wish you nothing but the best and most success in everything you do. And I'll see you all in the next video.